Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to lucky episode 13 of But First Football. This is our podcast with Vaughn Parker, our resident football phenom, 11-year veteran of the NFL, and my good friend. And my name is Kim Beal, and I am the self-proclaimed first lady of football fandom and fashion. So I know that's silly, but that's just what it is right now. Maybe one day I'll have something better. I don't know.
No, that
But
worked.
we get together and we talk always but first football, but we talk about a lot of other things, and we found that they all start with F words. So I do have an F word today before we get started, Vaughn.
Okay.
Financially secure.
Yes.
So that would be Tristan Wirfs.
Oh, did he get a new deal?
He got his contract today. So, we're going to talk about it a little bit in the frenzy, but I got to tell you that the Bucks did such a good job this year with getting everybody signed. And we were going to talk a little bit about the Cowboys later and
Yeah.
how badly they have done with the very
Yeah.
same thing. So, financially secure. That is an F word. And it starts with an F. So, I felt it worked.
Hey, it does.
So,
Absolutely. That might be my favorite F word.
is it? It is a good one. It's
Right.
helpful. It's helpful to be financially secure.
Yes.
So today we decided for the fundamental section of our podcast, we are going to be discussing how our players dress for success, meaning all the gear and stuff that these guys have to wear, and how it affects the game and how it affects your mindset. And we also know how it affects going to the bathroom sometimes. Like there's all kinds of stuff to dig into here. So, Vaughn, tell us about all the gear.
Yes. So there's a saying, and I first heard it when I was back at UCLA, but it's probably more prevalent in the NFL. And it simply goes, you look good, you feel good, you play good, and then hopefully you get paid good, right? And that's how we kind of look at the uniform and the equipment, but really it's about safety. That's really what it is. And uh, the equipment managers are probably the unsung heroes of any, really going down even to the high school level of any team, because they really have to take the input and the injury history and the current injuries and the preferences of so many guys. So there's not just a one size fit all type mentality. You got to really customize the pads to the uniform to the specific player. And so they do so much to it's in travel days, right? They hand, if we're traveling on a Saturday to go to a Sunday game, we're getting our bags to pack on Thursday because there's just literally so much for them. And it's not just us, right? It's 20 to 30 coaches, and then there's, it's the gum we chew, it's the, what, like there's so many things for those guys to pack up and get ready and move out, and multiple types of shoes because we're going to a turf field. But well, what if it's rainy? Then you need a little bit higher turf, right? Like it's so many things to consider. So they really, like I said, the unsung heroes of a football team. And so basically, I guess I'll just start at the top, and it's the helmets, right? And so they make sure when you first get to a team. Now, older guys might bring their helmet with, and however they go about refurbishing, or at least that style, right? Guys usually get pretty attached to the style of helmet. When I was playing, there were two or three different manufacturers, Bike, Rydell, and just whatever you're comfortable with. And most of those at the time had a combination of foam and an air bladder on the inside, which you could, the customization was taking the air pump, filling it up. Where do you like it? Because you want a snug fit and it's not going to slide around, almost like it becomes a part of your head, right? And unfortunately, the unfortunate part is you can put as much protection around your head as you want. The real issue is the deceleration when when your body stops and your brain, which is sitting in fluid, is still moving, and it smashes into the inside of your skull, right? So you can put all the protection you want. Now, granted, there's models now that they say are better in terms of the concussion issue, but it's always going to be, you got big men moving very fast. crazy collisions, there's always going to be a little bit of an issue with that, right?
Well, and
Um,
how much do you think a helmet weighs? Like, I can't, I'm so impressed with the speed that everyone's flying around on a football field wearing these things. And I mean, are they a couple of pounds? I don't even know.
Yeah, a couple few pounds. I know definitely the models they have now, I felt them in comparison to what I wore, and they're much lighter, right? The materials are a little bit different. And again, it's like the fender on your car, right? You remember back in the day they used to make cars with these steel fenders because steel is tough, but what you really want is something that's gonna give a little, crumple a little, and disperse the impact of that force over a greater surface area
Right.
so that the initial impact that spot doesn't take all the brunt of it. And so that's kind of what helmets are nowadays, right? And so as you
Yeah.
see, especially this year, I see it a lot more. So many teams are now using the technology. It looks like a kind of we talked about a little bit like the Gazoo helmet, but those
Mhm.
things have sensors that tell them about the impacts that any certain guy is taking over the course of a practice, and they can download that information and look at what type of forces that he's applying. And I'm not exactly sure exactly how they're going to use it yet, but it's definitely moving towards they can know this guy took so many hits. Hey, do we need to put him in the concussion protocol? And it's just player safety is always going to be paramount, especially nowadays.
I didn't realize that they actually recorded information. I think they're called Guardian caps, and definitely saw them at the Bucks training camp, but I didn't realize how advanced they really are. It's
Yeah,
interesting. They really
yeah,
look like just, a piece of styrofoam.
right, right. Well, nowadays that's the awesome thing about microchips, right? You can put technology into almost anything nowadays, right? A grain of rice.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And then the next piece is probably the shoulder pads. Now there you'll get definitely a lot of variation depending on the position. And obviously receivers are probably the most finicky about their uniform, their pads. They're always altering like themselves, right? They're always altering, shaving this, shaving that, trying to get the best fit. So they want, they wear a smaller pad, and they don't mind so much if it has kind of edges. Whereas offensive linemen, there's actually there's pieces you can add to make it so that your pads don't have angles, because defensive linemen, of course, can hold by rule. They're allowed to hold us, and if they get the back of your pads, they can manipulate you and get leverage and pull you and push you.
Oh,
And so you
yeah.
don't want that. So there's pads you can put on, and then the other thing that we'll do, and some other positions do as well, they'll use double-sided tape to tape your jersey to your pads so that they can't get a hold of your jersey either, right? And then the third point, the ultimate point, which I tried once, was not a fan. I call it the diaper, but it's really just a piece that connects from the back of your jersey, and you can button it to the front of your jersey so you get a snugger fit, and it's just way too uncomfortable. So, but plenty of
It's
guys
like
do.
a bodysuit, like
Yeah,
women
well,
wearing a
yeah.
bodysuit.
And of course, we're not sophisticated enough to call it the bodysuit. We refer to it as the diaper. But it just wasn't a good fit for me. So I cut mine off. I cut the that part off, and I would just tuck it in. And then, of course, sometimes you'll see right before the team goes out to the field on game day, the ref is, and it's random every time, but the ref is checking defensive linemen, offensive linemen, because back in the day, guys would spray themselves down with different materials, silicone, to try to make their jersey slippery, right? Where you couldn't get a hold of it. And so guys are always looking for the edge, right? Somehow, some way.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I knew
Yeah.
about Stickum on the
Yes.
gloves, but
Yes. For the receivers.
didn't know they were putting Teflon on their clothing.
Yes.
Wow.
And then the other thing you might see sometimes is, especially at the positions that take big impacts, running backs, receivers will sometimes wear an extra pad that kind of covers their backs. And then quarterbacks will often wear the flak jacket where it's got the extra back piece and then it wraps around, kind of protect their ribs. Because sometimes they take those shots where they don't see it coming and the guy lowers his shoulder, puts it into their ribs. So they got a little bit of extra protection there.
Well, and
Um,
how long does it take to get that stuff on? Like, I mean, that has to take a lot of time to put that on.
Not really, because it's got 4 points of contact on your shoulder pads, two big straps, and then two smaller straps up top. So it really does. You put your head through, and then you strap up, and it really takes no time at all. The
Probably takes
time
more time to get out of it.
yeah, well, yeah,
Okay,
feels like it,
that
right?
makes sense. That makes sense.
Sometimes the preparation of, like, if you're a guy who uses the double-sided tape, that can take some time. But that's my coach used to always say, "Hey, if this is part of your craft, like, get used to it. Don't rely on the equipment guys to do it. You should do it for yourself and learn how to do that." And so, I ultimately ended up getting pretty good at that. But like you said, you referenced the receivers a minute ago. Like, the big thing for them, if you see the gloves that they play with now, it's got a tackified surface on the palm, and it literally just stops the spin of the ball. And it's because you said, like, Stickum back in the day, famously, Lester Hayes,
Lester
right? Your
Hayes.
Raiders. uh, Lester would be covered head to toe in this. What is he covered? Well, it was Stickum, right? And that was his way to make the ball stop. Well, now it's kind of you feel it, and it looks very shiny. Looks like it might be slick, but it's just the way the material looks. But it just does. It literally stops the spin of the ball, and that helps those guys make some of the spectacular catches we see out there on Sundays. And then the other thing, a big difference so at the high school and college level, you're required to wear hip pads. You might be required to wear a cup in high school, if I remember correctly. In the pros, no one wears any of that. No cups, no. It's very rare. Maybe if you have a hip injury or a tailbone injury, a guy in the pros will wear hip pads, but typically guys that's not even a thing in the NFL.
Is that because it just hinders your ability to move, or it's just not
Not really. Guys just want to feel
comfortable?
lighter, feel better, feel good, and like I
Yeah,
said, it looks better. It's a cleaner look than these, big pads. And then the
yeah,
other thing that the guys are always modifying, especially again the receivers, they'll modify their knee pads, right? They'll shave them down, and so then the other thing maybe people don't know is that there is typically they hire guys who used to play in the NFL to be kind of the uniform police. And so before the game, during warmups, they're out walking the field looking for violations, uniform violations. And typically what they'll do is they'll approach the guy, pull him to the side, say, "Hey, you've got this issue." Like, one of the ones for the receivers always is that their pants need to be below their knees, right? They love having the pants almost look like a long short, right? And so
yeah.
that's one that's always for them. Hey, pull your pants down, and before it gets to the fine stage, right? And excuse me, and it's typically someone who's played for the franchise, so there's always usually some type of relationship there. So guys are usually pretty respectful, but then there are times where it goes to a point where for certain things there's just like kind of a zero tolerance. Guys will put messages on their shoes sometimes. Sometimes they'll wear a shoe color that doesn't match the uniform, because that's what if you look at college games, there's so much variation. Even everyone's
Yeah.
wearing the same uniform, but there's a lot of variation in terms of socks maybe, or sock
Well, and
color maybe.
they like to wear shorter pants. I mean, some of the college kids wear pants, they cut them up above their knees.
Well, and because there's no one there finding them if they they do that, right? And so
Yeah,
the thing that NFL wants, they want these players, they want us all to blend in, and they want you to see the logo and the colors, and so they want that uniformity from player to player. And of course, we're trying to stand out as much as we can, right?
right.
And so there's someone that goes through, like, and socks are a big one. Hey, same color socks. Have your socks. You have to have your socks up. And if the course of the game they come down, you're not going to be worried about it. So once the game starts, they probably aren't such sticklers, at least on the sock issue. But Monday's always the test. Or is it Monday or Tuesday? I can't remember now. That you come in and there'll be a package on your locker room, or on your locker room chair, and that's the fine from the league, right?
Oh,
Yeah, they pay you, but they're always trying to get it back. So yeah, so there is a uniform police, and if you don't adhere to the uniform, I think shoes can only be 3 to 4 colors that are team colors. You can't wear orange if your team colors are black and gold, except for those certain instances where perhaps the NFL has partnered with, like, the Susan G. Komen Foundation.
yeah,
When everyone was wearing pink, and it's
yeah.
league approved, where you can wear colors that don't exactly match the uniform. So
Well, now they do the cleats for or cause for cleats or whatever it
Yes.
is for a couple of weeks. And that's always very cool to see what
Yeah,
everybody's
it's fun to
causes
see.
are.
Yeah, exactly.
But probably the NFL decided we can't beat him. Let's join him and make it a thing.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I guess I'll say is that, teams will have contracts with certain sporting good manufacturers, whether it be Nike, Converse, whatever, but players will as well. And the way that works is you have to wear their equipment. So, just a quick story from when I played, I switched from my first 2 years, I wore Reebok. My last 9 years, I wore Nike. And when I first made the switch, I liked Reebok's gloves better. I still had plenty of Reebok's gloves laying around. So in the game, I wore the Reebok gloves, but I covered up the logo with tape. Well, they watch you every game to see if you're violating. And so you get the letter from Nike saying, hey,
Oh,
you need to be wearing Nike gloves, or guess what? You're not going to have a contract anymore, right?
oh my
So,
gosh.
oh yeah. Like it's very, which makes sense. Look, I signed a deal to represent them, and so I probably need to wear their product, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you probably better learn to love it.
Yes, exactly. And so lineman gloves
Whoa.
are, compared to receivers gloves, obviously it's got more padding because we're in there throwing punches in
Yeah,
a street fight, and so we've got the big heavy padding, and so yeah, there you go.
that's funny. Now, uh, the jewelry situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. Was there as much jewelry when you played? Were people wearing like There's so many chains. Those chains have got to get ripped off your neck.
Well,
I
so
can't imagine they don't lose them.
especially when I first got into the NFL, Bobby Ross was my head coach. So he came, he had that military background. So he was kind of a stickler for that type of thing where he really didn't care for guys wearing jewelry. And he always tried to emphasize that, hey, we don't want someone trying to make a play on someone, getting their finger caught in a necklace. And maybe then, you got an issue with your hand. And so he really frowned upon it. So it wasn't, at least for my team, it was not, it was not accepted as much as it seems to be. So I think it's just an individual. Like if the individual wants to do it, if the team and the coach allows it and it's permissible, then guys will. It's just another way to differentiate yourself, basically. I wouldn't want to play with the chain around my neck under my pads, but some guys don't mind it and some guys do. Right? Earrings.
Yeah.
Some guys wear earrings. I typically, especially coming from UCLA, Coach Donahue never let the guys wear, earrings, but I can't imagine playing with earrings in, right? But some guys, it's not
Yeah.
even a thing for them. It's not something that bothers them at all. So,
I looked at, when I was watching that episode or the show Receiver, Justin Jefferson, he wears a lot of jewelry. A lot of jewelry. And I do think in one of the games he lost one and he was like, "Oh well," but they're big. Some of those pieces are big and I feel like you could get a hand on it. I mean, I don't know if that would be a legal tackle or I guess you couldn't probably bring them down with a necklace, but
well, I'm not. Maybe there's a recent rule change, but I know the hair's part. If you wear dreads, many of the guys wear dreads. That's if you can use the dreads to bring a guy down, right? So it's part
yeah.
of it. So I'd imagine. So there's famous stories about guys losing big diamonds that are worth thousands and thousands of dollars, and out on the field after the game, with teammates, hey, help me find my earring.
Out there with a metal detector.
Yeah. Hopefully they found it because I'm sure the security is out there if they didn't.
Just waiting. They're just waiting for them to go.
Right.
Now, one time we did discuss the whole what happens when you have to go to the bathroom factor.
Yes.
So, what does happen when you have to go to the bathroom?
Well, for me, it was never an issue. I always made sure I could make it to halftime or make it to the end of the game. But some guys just, I was watching a YouTube earlier this week, just so happened across Channing Crowder, who played, linebacker for the Dolphins when he played. And he was telling a story about how he ran to the locker room to use the bathroom and there was a sudden change. They recovered, the other team recovered a fumble, and so he had to be back out there, but he missed a play or two, and his coach went crazy on him. So he's talked about, I decided that was never going to happen again. So if I needed to go, I would just go in my pants. So it's more common than you think. And that's the thing. Like, you can't tell look, our blue pants, just for some reason, just always felt like they just retained more water than and so no one would ever know whether it was sweat, if it was no one would ever know. So yeah.
So that leads me to another question. So there's the home and the away.
Yes.
How is that determined? That's determined just by the team or what?
Yeah, that's typically determined by the home team. And so like Dallas famously wears white at home quite often. Miami smart. So that's we did it a couple times where those first couple games in September, where it's pretty warm in Mission Valley, we'd wear white at home to kind of make the other team be in their darker color, and, get a little bit. It's in a league where parity is built into the system. You're trying to look for any advantage you can. So if you're playing the Falcons and they wear black jerseys, and it's hot where you are, you wear white at home so you can put them in those black jerseys where maybe they're just a little more tired, maybe they sweat a little bit more, a little bit more dehydrated by the end of the game. Because, like you said, it's a game of inches, and you're looking for that little tiny advantage. And so, yeah, it's determined by the home team.
And do they have to determine that at the beginning of the season and say these are the days? Because I know I get all this stuff from the Bucks, and like the creamsicle game is going to be in October, and
right,
it seems as if they've got it pretty well scheduled.
Well, the NFL is so, again, because they're going for uniformity, right? So the NFL is so rigid about their uniforms, and part of it also is because they have product. They make product based on those. So, you get your home and away, but then you also are allowed to have an alternative, right? Where, again, it's about the sales of this alternative color, right? And so I don't know what it is for you. So I imagine you guys maybe have I know I've seen you wear pewter, but that's your alternative, right?
Pewter and red.
Yeah.
Pewter and red.
Okay.
Pewter, black, and red. But then the creamsicle, which is the throwback.
Throwback, right.
That's what everybody loves. Everybody loves those.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah. Those are my favorite.
So most teams put out their schedule well in advance, so everyone kind of knows what to expect. And I remember my first year was the 75th anniversary, so that's what throwbacks were very big that year, and we wore our powder blues, and everyone loved our powder blues.
Yeah.
And we wore the all white, which had the powder blue, and those looked awesome. So we just happened to play in the Hall of Fame game that year, and I remember that was my first game wearing the all white throwbacks, and man, they look sharp. They don't wear those anymore. Pretty much now, their alternative is kind of an updated version of the powder blues, but it's still not the same. Like it's such a sharp. I think it's the best looking uniform in all of sports, to be honest. I know I'm biased, but I don't think I'm exaggerating.
They are good looking. The throwback uniforms that I really don't like are the Steelers. When they look like bumblebees.
Well, they're going back so far, right? So let me ask you this. So speaking of, the University of Michigan, right? The Wolverines.
Yep.
So that helmet is basically that symbol that they have on their helmet is basically, if you look at back in the days of the leather helmets, that's how they were designed, right? That's how the leather was sewn together, and that's representative of that, right? It's kind of a throwback. Yeah. Same concept that the Steelers are doing. Basically, they go back so far that, they were wearing the old-timey leather helmets, stockings, right?
Can you imagine?
Green Bay's another one who has kind of...
Yeah.
They're really paying homage to a time where the uniforms weren't so pretty.
Yeah. What if you got drafted and you really did not like the team uniform? Wouldn't that just suck?
I imagine like it's an issue for some guys if you got a problem with green and yellow, right? Like because some combinations don't necessarily in my head go together that great. Like I always like orange and blue, like Denver. Like really, does that really?
Yeah.
I'm used to it now, but at the time, does that really work?
So what are some of your favorite uniforms today that you see?
I think Detroit's uniforms are sharp, and they just changed theirs. I think they're changing theirs this year. And that Hawaii blue, is it Hawaiian
Yeah.
blue or Hawaii blue?
I think it's Hawaii blue.
Yeah, Hawaii blue with the silver. I think those are just incredible. Who else has a great uniform? Like I said, the Chargers. I don't like the new alternatives so much as the official throwbacks, but it gives me that feel. So I really like those. The Raiders, I think, just that classic silver and black just always works.
One of the best.
It does. I hate to admit it,
Yeah.
right?
You know who's I love? I love the Baltimore Ravens. I
Okay.
think those helmets are so badass. Those Raven helmets, I
Yeah.
really like those.
Yeah.
My least favorite are the Bengals.
Yeah.
It's just not a good look.
It looks, my least favorite is Cleveland just because it looks like a high school uniform. It doesn't, and I know it's tough with the. I'd even feel better if they went back to the, they've got the little, I don't know if it's a pixie kind of character that they used to represent the franchise like way back. Go back to that. Like what they're doing now just doesn't work for me at all.
I agree. Yeah, I would agree with you. The Browns are probably the worst uniform.
Yeah.
The Vikings uniform's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess I like purple. I must like purple.
Yeah, between them and the Ravens, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Rams uniforms either. I don't like the curling horns. I don't know. I just know I really like the Ravens. I really like the Ravens uniforms.
Yeah.
I really do. Oh, I don't like the Jaguars. The Jaguars, I don't really understand the point of the Jaguars as a franchise. I'll just say
it. Well, I'm still waiting for the Jaguars to move to London, right? I keep expecting.
Yeah,
like,
they'll be the first team.
Yeah,
they will.
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought it would have happened already, but we'll see. And I'm not wishing that for the people of Jacksonville. Trust me, I want them to have their team, but it felt like that's the way things were going.
You know what I'm noticing as I see myself? I feel like my hair looks like Trevor Lawrence. I have Trevor Lawrence hair today.
So I was just recently talking with my daughter Madison about Shrek 2.
Yes.
Prince Charming.
Yes.
And that's who Trevor reminds me of with that hair.
that is yes. I would say that's very accurate. Yeah. Good. Well, so should we move on to the frenzy now? I mean,
sure.
we can as the season starts, I'm sure we can we'll have questions about the uniforms and stuff that comes with it. But so moving into the football frenzy, tonight is the Hall of Fame game, which is the prequel to preseason.
Mm-hmm.
So the teams that play in the Hall of Fame game actually have to play this extra game.
Yeah.
And the Hall of Fame game is a fundraiser for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I didn't know, but I learned that today because as I've said before, The Athletic is the most amazing. If you want to learn about sports, read The Athletic. So it's a fundraiser, but this weekend is always super fun because it's the induction, and the induction is on Saturday. I would say that this year for me personally, there's really maybe only a couple guys that I would get kind of excited about, but it's also a little bit tricky because the Olympics are on, and I do love the Olympics. So I've been watching the Olympics, but we've got, let's see, I believe it's 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, sorry, just 7 players being inducted.
Right.
And Yeah, they're just not, none of them are super well known. I would say Devin Hester being one of the best known, and he's, he actually is the only NFL player who had 19 career regular season TD touchdown returns
Yeah,
on kickoff. That's
yeah.
a lot. And
So
they wouldn't even kick to him, after the
yeah,
first year or so.
yeah, they caught on.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, but he still managed to do it. And then I
Julius
think the
Peppers
one
maybe because he's
Julius
kind of
Peppers.
recent. Yeah,
Yeah, and he was the only one who was a first round ballot
right,
this year.
right.
And he is the only player in history that had more than 100 sacks and 10 interceptions.
Yeah, which just
So
speaks
that's
to his
pretty impressive.
athleticism, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know,
then
he played basketball as well at North Carolina, so he's just an athletic freak.
he's a big man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's the first Carolina Panther, the first, at least not the first one to go in, but he was the first one drafted by Carolina. Maybe I'll have to check myself on that. But
Okay.
I think the one that will be the most emotional is Steve McMichael.
Yeah. Tough situation.
Oh my gosh. So I don't even know how that's all going to work. But, he was, when I lived in Chicago after I got out of college, and the Bears were still they were still the 80s Bears.
Yeah.
That just tells you how old I am. Thank you. But he was just such a badass, and he was really tough. And, to see him now, it's tough, but he was pretty impressive on the field and very dominant.
Yes. I mean, it's crazy that defense, Richard Dan Hampton, Steve McMichaels, Refrigerator Perry, Singletary, Wilbur Marshall, Dave Duerson, Gary Fensick.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It's Hall of Famers at every level of that defense.
Yeah. Remember I told you about the Super Bowl shuffle? Well, Richard Dent was, if a quarterback's slow, he's going to get a dent.
Oh my goodness. They must look at that now and just cringe.
And they're dancing. They're all just like, their dancing is so funny.
You know what, now that I think about it,
and Gary Fensick is in there dancing, and it's really funny.
Maybe not though, because they got that. You know what? That's another symbol of their victory. They got the ring, so who cares? People can say what they want about it. They won.
And then they have people like me who like still quote the song. Like, that's just weird. I know. So anyway, from a frenzy point of view, Hall of Fame, that's this weekend. That's fun, and usually, I do have a few weepy moments during the induction. There's very emotional for the players that are being inducted.
Yeah.
So it's always good for a tear or two.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, like ALS, that's the one thing that scares the hell out of me through all this, and just unfortunate. And I didn't know until I saw, Steve McMichael's going into the Hall of Fame. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I saw that.
Yes.
I said, oh no, he's got ALS.
Yeah.
I don't know what stage he's in or where he's at in the progression.
Well, he's not well.
Okay.
Steve Gleason is handling it well, but not well. I mean, it's a horrible disease,
definitely.
And really, really hard to see.
Yeah, I feel for him.
Yeah. But that'll be this weekend. And then we started off when we first began the podcast today talking a little bit about financials.
Yes.
And so what are you Cowboys? What is wrong with them?
Look, here's the thing.
What is wrong with them?
I like, it's not that I like to hate on Dak. I just don't care for Dallas as a franchise just because they get so much attention and they haven't won. But objectively, if I'm being serious and not being a hater, Dak is one of the top 10 quarterbacks, and you do a lot worse than having Dak as your quarterback. And if that's the case, what's your next best alternative? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And so at that point, then you have to give the guy his money. And as we talked about a few times over the last previous weeks, if you wait, the price just keeps going up because now Tua has a deal. Now the kid in Green Bay
Jordan
has a
Love.
deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jordan Love has a deal. And so now that's not going to take less than those deals because that's the way the system works.
Well,
You're
and the
next
thing
up,
is,
you get more than the previous guy. So,
they haven't signed any. They haven't signed Dak. They haven't signed CeeDee Lamb, and they haven't signed Micah Parsons. What is going on?
but this is clearly their strategy. They did the same thing last year. It's kind of a wait and see strategy. And I'm not exactly sure what they're waiting for because it's the question, are they waiting for them to regress a little bit and so they have to pay them a little less, and it's not going to be so significantly less that it would make a difference, so why not get your guys done now? If
Yeah.
it all works out in the end, then I'll eat crow, but until then it just doesn't seem to make sense when you have clearly identified your CD Lamb has demonstrated that he's one of the top receivers in the league and deserves to be
Yeah.
paid. Michael Parsons is one of the top pass rushers. So once you identify, here's the talent, here they're in their prime, we have to pay them. I'm not sure what waiting is getting them.
I can't imagine. And then, of course, the Mike McCarthy, his contract is up this year too. So then they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with that. It just really seems like, I don't know, maybe it's time for Jerry Jones to step down and let his VP take over.
Well, good luck with that one. Good luck with that one.
So, but on the Cowboys topic, okay, so now that I technically am retired, I'm just gonna say it. Um, I tend to watch a little more TV. I have a little bit more time. So on Netflix,
Mhm.
there's another series, and it's called America's Sweethearts, and it is about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Have you
Right.
seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I recently spoke with my daughter about it because she
Has
saw it and
she
she's like,
watched it?
"Hey, Dad, have you seen this?" And so she took me through it, and then so I've seen the preview, but I haven't actually watched an episode. But yeah, it was interesting.
Okay, so I'm assuming it was Madison who told you about it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Elizabeth James and I watched this, and it's like a train wreck. You can't look away, and you just have to find out what happens.
Right.
So we binged the entire thing in 2 days, and I don't even know how to describe it. They make no money. They
Yeah.
don't make money.
Yeah.
And these women, they come from all over the country, and they go through this extremely rigorous audition process. The woman who runs it, she's very scary. She's terrifying. She's like very serious, but she was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and then her choreographer was also a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I mean, you got to watch it, because
Okay.
I will say that now when I see a Cowboys game and I see them, I do have an appreciation. I have a lot, like they go through a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, they are, I think people see them and don't quite realize how talented and athletic they are. Like those routines, like it takes so much. And then when I think about sometimes, I think we talked earlier about, I see a guy who's super athletic, super fast, and it's like he doesn't make the team. It's like, oh man, like how did he not make it? It's very similar. Like some of these girls are so talented.
Yeah.
They can dance their butts off and then they don't make the team. You're like, man, like just it's like
Oh my God.
the margins must be that much.
And the trauma
Yeah.
when they don't make the team, the
Yeah.
mascara, the lashes, and there's this one girl, I think her name was Victoria. We were all like rooting for her because she's kind of a little bit, she's had an eating disorder, like she's kind of messed up. Her mom was a Cowboy cheerleader, so she's like it's in her, in the blood.
DNA, yeah.
But she I actually saw an article in Vanity Fair that she's moved to New York and she's trying to be a Rockette. So I'm like, you go, girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they benefit from that same mystique and that same propaganda, I'll call it, machine that the Cowboys
Oh yeah.
benefit from. Because I remember as a little kid watching Dallas I used to just hang around. My mom used to watch Dallas. I used to hang around just for the beginning where they fly over Texas
Oh,
Stadium,
right.
and then you'd see the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, right? And it's
That's
just
right.
everyone knows about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and so I can imagine, like her especially, like her mom. It's in her DNA. She's grown up her whole life wanting to do
Yep.
this, right? And so I can imagine you don't make that team, and it's just like, oh man.
Do you know that at the end of every season, they have to give back their uniforms? So there is no guarantee that you
Oh,
will make the team. If you're a veteran, there's no guarantee you'll make the team again.
oh wow,
Every single one of them has to turn their uniform back in. And
wow.
then of course, there's a whole nother thing about making sure you still fit into it. Like you got to watch it and
Yeah,
then tell me what you think.
and you're
And
right.
I
Like,
want to know more about what Madison thought because we were fascinated.
well, she was fascinated as well. But and like you said, when they cheer on Sundays, they barely make anything. They make all their money with the photo shoots they go to, the special events outside of the team functions that they go to, and it's a tough. Like they really want it. They really
Yeah,
want
well, one of them, she was like the head one. She's a nurse. I mean,
it.
she's
Oh,
working like all these hours as a nurse, and then she goes to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I mean, her patients probably love it.
yeah, yeah.
They're probably like, "Oh, yay." So that's about it for the frenzy. But next week, we're going to have a lot more to talk about because we got some games.
Yes.
But I wanted to just touch on some Olympic fashion. I know I was texting you and Ashton during the opening ceremony. I don't think you guys were watching because if you were, you would have been as excited as I was. I really loved it. I watched the whole thing. I thought it was amazing. I know a lot of people thought it was weird, but I thought it was great. But there were two moments of fashion that I really have to get. I have to give a shout out to Peyton Manning. I keep trying to find out who designed his suit. His suit was beautiful. It was beautiful. He looked better than I've ever seen him look. I was so impressed. So I'm like, okay, who make that suit? I still don't know. I'm gonna hope and guess it's a French designer. So I don't know who that would be. But anyway, he looked great. And then there's a rapper, Rimke. He's a
Okay.
French rapper.
Okay.
He was wearing this very cool black and red Louis Vuitton, like almost lumberjack looking jacket. It
Yeah.
was great. It was great. And then the really fun part was they had a runway fashion show going on the whole time during the opening ceremonies, like all kinds of crazy fashion.
Hmm.
And the medals are presented on Louis Vuitton trays.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, that
very
makes sense, I
French.
guess. Yeah.
Very, very French.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's another F word. French fashion for the Olympics. And
Yeah,
then
that goes hand. Yeah.
my favorite French athlete from the Olympics is a swimmer. And I just love to say his name. And I think I sound French when I say it. So I'm going to do it for you.
Okay.
Leon Marchand. He actually swims for ASU, but he's still French.
Well, I haven't watched a ton, but have you seen the 3x3,
The basketball?
the half court basketball?
Yeah.
I watched that the other day, and that was my first time. They never stop.
They never stop. That's got to be really, really hard. And what about the rugby, the women's rugby?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of that?
I saw some clips of it. I haven't watched the game, but I saw the end of their game the other day, which was pretty dramatic.
Really intense.
Yes.
And then I guess New Zealand won the gold. And so after they won the gold, they did one of those hakas.
Yes.
I really want to do a haka. I don't really know what they are, but I think they're really cool.
Well, New Zealand, the All Blacks were just out here a couple weeks ago. They played Fiji at the Snapdragon Stadium where San Diego State plays.
Did
Speaking
they
of the
do a haka?
yeah, of course, yes, and they blasted Fiji, who was just in the Final Four of the World Cup just a couple months ago. So I'm wondering if maybe they didn't send like their A players because I tell you what, those rugby dudes are huge and their backs are wide as a table and they just run all day, right?
All
So
day.
yeah,
This is crazy. So I've been enjoying the Olympics.
yeah.
What about you? What else is going on with you?
Nothing, like I said. I watched a little bit of the shooting yesterday. I watched some of the archery. Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of the Olympics, but I've enjoyed what I've watched, and yeah, got another week of it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching some more.
Family, all the family's good. Did
Yeah,
Mackenzie move already?
Mackenzie is gone. She's in Arkansas, all set. Maddie's moving back. Her plans have changed. She was thinking about going to starting her graduate program next summer at SC. And in the meantime, she was going to move from Canada and live in Hawaii for 6 months.
Oh,
But now that's kind of up in the air. So she's going to come home and kind of figure it out from there. So we'll see what
that'll be
happens.
nice. That'll
Yeah.
be nice for you to have her home.
She'll be home on the 1st of next month. So yeah.
That's
So it's like I
awesome.
lost one and I'm getting another one back.
Well, my family, I have my girl back for a few weeks.
Oh,
So
nice.
she had a very successful first semester of PT school. She's got an A. So I'm very
Oh,
proud
good
of her.
for her. Congrats.
And she's home tonight, but yesterday, so we did a few things yesterday, and for some reason I started telling her the story of Jaws. She's never seen the movie.
What? Oh,
No, she's not seen the movie. And so I don't know. I really don't know why this all happened. We started talking about it, and then I proceeded to tell her the entire movie, like everything from quotes and then I told her things that were in the book that weren't in the movie. Like it was really weird. I don't know how it all happened. And so then we last night Taquito. Sorry, dog barking. So then last night we're home and I started quizzing her on the Jaws. And she passed. She did very well. I'm
okay.
sorry, my dog is going a little crazy. So yeah, that's what I put my family through.
Okay.
I retell movies and then quiz them on it.
Well, tell her there was only one ever made. She doesn't need to see the other three because it's
Yes, they're
diminishing
terrible.
returns.
Now here's a trivia question for you, and let's see if you know it.
Okay.
What was the nickname of the mechanical shark? You know, the one that
Yeah. I don't know it.
Bruce.
Bruce.
And there were 3 of them because one had to go up and down and one had to could only move to the right and one could only move to the left.
I just remember that those sharks never worked. I remember that. I do remember that.
I don't know why I have this fascination about Jaws, but I do.
No, Jaws was amazing, especially that summer. I think I remember some of the buzz of that summer, or maybe I remember I was older and heard about the buzz of that summer. But yeah, Jaws was an amazing movie.
Amazing.
Definitely.
So everyone will be very happy next week when we have more football to talk about.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, everyone. I digress. So I guess we are at time, and it'll be so exciting next week because I think we will have had a couple of preseason games. I know our first one here in Tampa is on the 7th. So we will have football to discuss, and we can go back and start watching for the stuff we've been learning. And
yes,
I'm so excited and so ready.
And it will be, Kim, because the starters won't be in, but guys trying to make the team, I think there's so much value in watching that and watching them give all their effort, and all their hopes and dreams are in that one play, in that one quarter, in that one series. Like it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty cool. So all right, Vaughn. Well, thank you for the info. And Ashton, thank you. And everyone, we will see you next time on But First Football. Bye.
All righty. See you, Kim. Bye.
Bye.